is what
It's
it
five
is.
o'clock somewhere.
I mean, literally.
Yeah,
So, but
3 p.m. over here, so 3 p.m. is kind of good enough.
It's Derby week, so come on.
yeah, right. Every week in September, which is odd for me,
Yes,
just a little.
yeah,
So,
very, very, very odd. Well, let's see how I can do this. I'm actually, if you click down on your video window next to where the text is,
yeah,
yeah.
there we go. Yeah, so if we want to jump on video, you guys, bottom left hand corner, click the globe icon. It's like three from the left. Click that, and then bottom right hand corner, click the camera icon, and that'll pull up everyone's camera in the area. There's Jake.
Howdy doody.
So I can either share my video. It looks like I can do one or the other. Correct? Or
That's correct. That's correct. So you can share your video, or you can share a presentation. I mean, then obviously your audio is over top of your presentation. That's a good question.
well, it's there we go. So it's got the video going. All right. Well, I'm going to just go ahead and give some welcoming remarks here,
Mhm.
and I've actually brought up the original opening remarks from the very first run for the Unicorns back in way back in 2018. If anybody can remember back before COVID, we actually were there in person. So to give a little history, if this is going to allow me to, there we go. Give a little history about Run for the Unicorns and why we're trying to do it Derby Week out of Louisville, Kentucky. But this is all obviously virtual, so it's going worldwide. I have not missed the Derby since I was 10 years old, and it's one of my, it's kind of my only, family tradition is to go to the Derby every year. My grandfather started it off. He had one of the largest Derby parties in Louisville, and so I just grew up always going to the Derby, loving technology, and what I came to realize, Kentucky Technology Hub is, you know, Austin became a world class technology hub with a much smaller event than us. In 2015, they unseated Silicon Valley as the number one spot for startups, which was really, mind blowing. And part of how they did that was using South by Southwest, which um, started out as a really small music festival. They grew to a film festival and music, and then they added the interactive piece, which like 80 people showed up for. Then, roughly back around 2010, the city got involved and started recruiting all of the technology companies that came to town to try to sell them on the town on how great it was and that they can get investment there. Well, the Kentucky Derby people don't understand. Um, some of the wealthiest people in the world come there. Out of just 14 people that come to the Kentucky Derby, their total net worth is over $68 billion, or was back in 2018. So, with 1.2 million people coming to town, we're trying to get those investors interconnected with the technology communities to just so they can also invest in those type of startups in that. So South by Southwest has a $315 million city impact, bringing only 200,000 people to Austin. The Kentucky Derby Festival has a $128 million impact, bringing 1.2 million people to town. So if you break down those numbers, that's $106 per person that we get, and $1,575 per person they get. So they're basically, blowing our socks off, and we have a much deeper, longer tradition. The Kentucky Derby is the oldest sporting event in the U.S. and the most premier horse race in the country, and pretty much one of the top premier ones in the world. So, the city impact 106 per person versus 1,575. The big difference is the technology event, and that's the main reason for bringing this together, is bringing together two of my personal loves, is technology and the Kentucky Derby. It just seems like a natural fit for me. This year is the first one that we've done the virtual event. My hats off to all the people at Gamer Jibe and Chris Reed. He's done a phenomenal amount of work to put this together. I don't think he slept in 2 weeks, so he might have a couple slurs here. And any of the technical difficulties that we have, this is the first time we've put this together, so please give us a little bit of flexibility there. And let's all go get a hat, go get a mint julep, and let's have a really good time. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris.
Yeah, so this event, it's interesting. The times we're living in the last 6 months, how life has completely changed, right? And then I think you look at the way we experience things, that has changed as well. So that's the kind of the undertone of the event, is creating an entirely new type of experience when it comes to an online event. So it's been really fun putting this together. I really appreciate everybody coming together. The team put in a lot of effort on both sides. Thanks to all the blockchain game partners that are part of this in the different wings with throughout the event. You can check them out with their booths. So just a lot of support from them and from the Gamer Jibe team, Silicon Nexus project, Convergence of Four Dimensions. It's just been a really cool experience. And again, just like Andrew said, we're experiencing this together. So this is an experience together. How many events have you been to like this, right? So it's pretty cool to be able to do this and to network with each other as well. We obviously have panels and things like that, but one of the value add is being able to network with each other, to be able to click on the avatar and connect on LinkedIn, right? And send each other messages and create these connections in a new way versus just being presented to. It's more of an experience, not just a presentation. So hopefully everyone enjoys it. Yeah, we want to get the feedback, like Andrew was saying. We appreciate everyone's time and effort that's been put into this. And I'm really excited because we have a number of, I think we have 10 panels, 5 or 6 keynote speakers throughout the next 2 days. And any way we can make the experience better throughout the time, let us know. So we really do appreciate it.
Awesome. Do we have all of our panelists ready, or should we, or we're waiting for anybody else to come in?
Looks like we are ready. If you would, we've got a couple not on video. So if you would like to jump on video and you're a panelist, feel free to go to the bottom left-hand corner. Let's do a check real quick to make sure you're unmuted. So make sure you're unmuted. The very left icon, bottom left-hand corner, make sure you're unmuted. And then click the share video button, which is 2 icons to the right of the microphone. Click the share video. And then your video will pop up under the video tab on the right-hand corner. So if you're watching and you want to see the video, click the video icon and you'll see all the panelists.
By the way, this is being streamed on the Silicon Nexus YouTube channel. I'll put the link to that if anybody wants to share it out as well. I'll put that in the text chat.
All right, so we'll give a couple more minutes if that is okay. So we're gonna just do a couple of checks. Video looks good. Audios look good as well from those that have checked. All right. One little feature to keep in mind, you actually can click the bartender from anywhere in the environment, like anywhere in the space. You don't have to actually walk to them. So
if you're table service.
Yeah, so it's a little secret. If you're, you don't want to run over there, you're able to do that from anywhere in the space. So just a couple secrets there. And then also to run, you hold shift while you use WASD to move as well. So I know we had some questions on that.
Awesome.
I don't see the breakdancing carpet behind us though. That was I wanted to bust some more moves, you know.
We pulled that out. That was there for the party, and we pulled that out because it was a little disconcerting to be in the middle of trying to have a serious talk and then break dance kind of lessens the impact, I think.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, we just made an adjustment. So. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and kick this off. So what I would want to do first is throughout the next 2 days, we're going to have moderators for every panel. The moderator for this panel, which is the blockchain games panel, is going to be Block Decentral. Really appreciate jumping on. A lot of great content coming from your way, so I really appreciate, I follow all of that, and I think it's really interesting. So thanks for all the effort you put into that. So we wanted you to be the moderator today for the panel. So could you tell a bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much. I pretty much run just kind of more casually into crypto and blockchain, a crypto and blockchain community, mostly on like Telegram, Discord. I also run a crypto YouTube channel, mostly, delving into the gaming side, so checking out different titles such as Dissolution. Reality Clash, not so much. Just got myself a new Android, so gonna have to get that one downloaded real and right and quick. But really, anything that comes out from Engine to Ethereum, anything that I find interesting, and just try to get the word out on it, because I know this is such a niche market right now, and there are more than enough gamers, and esports is becoming more than a large enough field of entertainment nowadays. So definitely want to show crypto, where it needs to be in the limelight right now. So yeah, that's me pretty much in a nutshell.
And you go by Brian or Block Decentral?
Yeah, either or. You can call me Brian. Just call me Brian for this thing.
All right.
Keep it casual.
All right. So we're gonna hand it off. I'm gonna hand it off to you as the moderator of this panel. And again, appreciate you guys being here. Really excited to dive into this.
Yeah, for sure. So I figured just start it off with a few kind of casual questions and then delve a little bit more specific into it. I know these past few days have been a bit crazy, especially on the Ethereum blockchain side with all that's been going on and the insane gas fees. So really the first one, mostly for the developers, is what has been the hardest part, kind of integrating blockchain and these assets into your games as far as the development side and really trying to push it off into the mainstream consumer.
So should I just hop in here?
Yeah, either or. We can start with whoever, I guess, wants to begin.
All right, I'll just take the lead. So pretty much our biggest challenge with integrating blockchain and gaming is, of course, as you mentioned, the gas fees and the transaction speeds. As you guys may or may not know, Dissolution uses kind of a hybrid system. So we have a database, like a regular game, tracks all the items. But then on top of that, a player can ascend an item to the blockchain. Of course, the downside of having your item ascended is that we cannot take it away from you. So as a game developer, this presents a really unique challenge. Say, someone ascends a med kit and you want that med kit to be a consumable item. Of course, you cannot take it away from them when they use it. So the items we allow players to ascend have to be non-consumable, and we have to design the game in a way that those items cannot ever be taken away from the player, and design for that. That's probably one of the biggest challenges we've run into as we develop Dissolution.
Yeah, very, very interesting. What we got here from Reality Clash. I don't know if you want to hop in next, or I do have some follow-ups.
Yeah, sure. I guess, obviously, as we kind of all know, that the blockchain space is still quite small in terms of the amount of users that you can gather. Obviously, the volume of transactions in terms of value is pretty high, and so there is obviously a lot of interest in the space. But for us, in terms of development, we again use a hybrid system to avoid gas fees. So I suppose our system is we have a blockchain economy where you can trade collectible tokenized assets, which are in Reality Clash's case tokenized weapons. And then you can use these inside our mobile game, which is on Android and iOS. So I'm glad, obviously, you're going to download it on a new Android. That's good to hear. And I mean, the difficulty we had was really, I mean, we tried to get around the difficulties really, because with high gas fees, we were experiencing problems there when users were trying to withdraw assets from the platform. But because we use a hybrid system where the game doesn't need to use gas fees to be played and use the assets within the game, we didn't really have that development issue. So I suppose our issues came more about, with the, as you brought up, the recent problems with gas fees when people want to withdraw assets from the platform and trade them elsewhere. So that is kind of the big problem that we've come up with recently.
Great, very interesting. I know Ethereum in this case is a bit of a double-edged sword in that case. I know one person I was just recently speaking to was mentioning, in my case, from playing all these blockchain games, you see, such as, you guys with this hybrid chain trying to have these items be more, as you said, consumable on the platform, on the game, not needing to be transacted across the blockchain so much, being more on server or like in your own system. However, these people have argued that that does sort of make it a centralized game. Now, whether that may be a good thing or a bad thing is anybody's opinion, and of course, depending on how the game is played. And then, of course, on the other end, you have these insane gas fees where right now it's, $3-4 to make a single transaction. How are you guys trying to... Mhm.
If I can jump in there.
Yeah, for sure.
The tickets to this event we have set up on the blockchain, you can buy with droids, and that are NFTs. And, for a $50 ticket, it got to yesterday, $142 was the highest we heard of gas fees to transfer. Many people who reduced the gas fees never got the transaction completed, but lost the gas. So, that's just insane. That makes it unusable. And that's one thing, with what we saw, back in 2015, 2016 on all of this is, just to give a little bit of a background with Convergence. I mean, we come out of the game industry, guys from the original Atari and Nintendo, Namco, Sega, etc. And, guys that built the Xbox. And if you just look at the Xbox ecosystem, the amount of transactions that happen there with items between players and in the game, etc., that just makes, that will dwarf any blockchain, etc. So we had to, we set up to basically do a hybrid model as well, and to be somewhat blockchain agnostic, where you could check items into our marketplace and out of our marketplace, or in and off of each individual blockchain, but be able to swap the items between the players instantaneously. So, we saw that years ago. Just, just rolling this system out, probably at the opportune time to really take advantage of everybody getting a taste of extremely high gas and slow transactions on the individual blockchains. Our system is somewhat centralized in a way, but it's also decentralized. So.
I was going to say, who is getting $3 to $4 transaction fees recently? I'd love to be paying that. I paid like $100, $120 the other day. But,
that was my own personal transaction. I tried sending some ETH over. Apparently, somebody randomly sent me quite a decent sum a few days ago that I just now realized. And it was about $3.48 on the slow transaction speed, up to I think $5 on the high end. So I know it's been a couple of days, at least 2, since the whole big, whatever this fee rise started. So it's been starting to settle out a little bit more. But really guess depends on time of day. It is still early, at least over here on the U.S. side. So it could be a little bit low on people, using the chain at the moment.
Well, you were transferring Ethereum on the Ethereum blockchain, which is the cheapest gas fees out there.
Yep, there's also that.
Everybody else on the panel here is talking about is sending a non-fungible token through through a contract, and I mean those things got in. You'll get insane. It's $100 to $150 right now to try to transfer one NFT from one wallet to another. And yet we can do it inside of the Silicon Nexus. We can transfer 1,000 NFTs in an atomic swap instantaneously with no gas. So
I mean,
that's the customer expectations that are out there. That in the gaming industry, they kind of expect that. They get their expectations from World of Warcraft and EVE Online and things like that. So,
I mean, I think more broadly, we shouldn't get too focused on Ethereum, because that's one, that's not the only thing, and two, clearly, Ethereum is moving towards a Ethereum 2. However long that takes, probably not quickly enough for games or anything else currently on Ethereum. But there are a whole bunch of other kind of scaling solutions that clearly are going to come to the fore now. Obviously, a lot of blockchain games using Matic, so we'll see that kind of stuff coming out. But more broadly, obviously at Dat Radar we cover a lot of different blockchains, and kind of one thing we see from the data is obviously pretty much any Ethereum game has gone to zero daily active unique wallets at the moment, because it doesn't make any sense to do that. But in contrast, kind of EOS has quite, not enormous numbers, but EOS has been pretty steady as a game platform. We've got the rise of Wax, which is an EOS-based system, which has kind of 1 or 2 games. But the biggest game at the moment, at least in terms of daily active unique wallets, is Splinterlands, which runs on the Hive blockchain. That's doing kind of 6,500 daily active unique wallets. Obviously, it's a very different sort of blockchain, precursor to EOS to that point of view. So I don't think we should get too kind of worried about what's currently going on with Ethereum. We've got a whole bunch of other blockchains. As you've suggested, you can work kind of around even Ethereum with various hybrids. And then we've got a whole bunch. I mean, I think the end of this year we'll see an enormous number of new blockchains coming, which are coming from, if you call them the 3rd generation or the 4th generation. Obviously, we've got the Flow blockchain from CryptoKitties people at Dapper Labs. We've got a whole bunch of kind of bigger things like Cosmos and Polkadot, which are kind of wider, not single blockchains. They're designed to have these kind of bridging options. So I think this time next year it'll be a very different kind of scenario. And while it's always kind of I guess kind of the news always tends to focus our attentions on something right now. I think as we've I'm sure some of you have been in the space longer than me. Over the last kind of 2 years, we've seen quite a lot of specific news, but that hasn't really, I don't think, impacted our vision of what blockchain games will be in the long term, which is, I guess, why most of us are in this space.
Yes, thank you for that. That really goes into a lot of my next question, really, that was going to be for you, considering with all these fees and whatnot. Kind of mentioning it again, Ethereum, as you said, the transactions, as I was going to ask, but mostly answered, as well as you can just go and check the volume and transactions through DApp Radar, that most that are running on Ethereum, as far as like unique transactions and whatnot, it must be, plummeting at the moment, just with everybody trying to hold off on buying or sending or transferring any sort of asset. Sorry. And then as you were mentioning Hive with Splinterlands, for new people jumping on, like somebody who, say, isn't into the blockchain space, hasn't been into it for 2 years, and, is hearing of these crypto games and is like, hey, I want to go and check it out. And then they go on and say, find, DApp Radar, and then they see all these different blockchains. And you have the Ethereum list, and then you have Hive with Splinterlands, and I don't know how many others and whatnot, coming and going, and each needing their own wallet. Do you see any, one winning out, or any, big name blockchain, or at least wallet coming out that'll help, unify it, or make it any, more simple for somebody that just wants to get in and start playing one of these crypto games, to not have to spend hours of research to figure out how to get a wallet set up and get crypto transferred and exchanged and all this hassle work?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the new blockchains largely kind of deal with that in a more elegant manner. But even with Ethereum, you've got things like kind of Fortis and there's a kind of nifty gateway, and there's quite a lot of these wallet solutions now where you just have kind of an email password, and they have kind of clever ways of kind of getting back your private key. So I think that's less of an issue. Technically, what I kind of think is probably over the next kind of couple of years, and maybe even sooner than that, what we'll see in the space is basically one game will get very big, and that game you already kind of see it. To some of the games that are coming out in the next 6 months, they don't talk about blockchain games. You know, they may use other terms. They may talk about kind of real ownership or true ownership or these kind of broader terms. I mean, I guess the one that a lot of attention is being paid to at the moment is Blankos Block Party, which is going to be launching on PC and seems like it's going to be coming to console. It's running on a customized version of EOS. It'll be free to play. People will just play the game. There'll be no kind of wallets. The wallets will be kind of just kind of seamless, unless you actually own one of these NFT characters that you want to do something with. So I mean, those guys have raised $35 million. They come from Activision and Blizzard. You know, they don't want to be making a game. They're not set up a company to make a game that appeals to 10,000 daily users. You know, they're looking to have millions of users. So I think there's a different scale that will come at some point. Maybe not that game necessarily, but I kind of think when that kind of scale comes, the blockchain stuff will kind of be irrelevant, really, to the fact that a lot of people are playing a game and transferring some sort of value around inside that game, really.
But I suppose that's what we always kind of wanted, right? Everybody wanted it to be seamless. Everybody wanted it to be user-friendly. So really, we're kind of reaching that point where we all accept that there might be some sacrifice of decentralization in order to have a hybrid system that gives benefits to the users, but also, allows businesses to operate as businesses. So yeah, it's just we're getting to that point, right?
Yes. Hopefully we finally get to a point where you won't have to remember 26 character passwords for your wallet and have to pay these ludicrous transfer fees. And that sort of brings me over to Dissolution. I know you guys recently started moving away from the engine platform and their token standard, mostly because of its connection to Ethereum and the scaling issues that has been having. As far as these games moving forward and the scalability, do you see any sort of near, year, 2-year solution for that? And as well as I know crossplay has been a big thing on a lot of these games, so is there some way of you guys connecting through like multiple chains, or are you looking to find one that's going to be like Hive is for Splinterlands at the moment, something that can handle your transaction output and you'll just change as time goes on? Might be a few too many questions at once.
Currently we're looking at making a different hybrid system that will actually allow us to use not just 1155s, but also other ERC standards, and also potentially other chains. We're still kind of talking with a few of the, the more popular ones like Matic. Nothing's confirmed yet because we're kind of just waiting to see where it goes. But we are definitely looking into some kind of hybrid system that's more chain agnostic. So it'll have, if you have a specific piece of technology that you like, you can actually use, Matic. You could use Ethereum. So we're trying to find a way that lets people pick their chain. We're not 100% sure on the details yet, but we still right now believe a hybrid system is the only feasible way to have a blockchain game, that the average person can afford to play. We've all seen the current gas prices, so I won't get into that, but we definitely believe in the next 2 years hybrid system is kind of necessary.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the consumer experience, and if you want to get the masses onto the blockchain, they've got to have ease of use, they've got to have speed, and it's got to be transparent to them. I mean, they only care about the cool items that they own and
Exactly.
that they trade for. That's all they care about. And games like you can model things like Magic: The Gathering Online, how they were transferring assets back and forth from players, for decades now. Very easy to use, easy to sort through, literally millions upon millions of items to trade back and forth digital assets. And that's where this is going, except we see it going to where you can trade those assets between games.
Mm-hmm.
Users own them, they can trade the assets back and forth any way, shape, or form. And there's several games out here that are letting people take assets from one game and basically mint them into their game or make a new version of it into their game, which is kind of cool. So there's a lot of things that they're doing with these now.
Exactly. So that's like pretty much our thoughts almost exactly. It's not that players care so much about it's on a blockchain, it's decentralized, and all these other things. It's more just having the mindset of it's my item and I can do what I want with it. I can sell it, I can trade it, I can use it in other games. And blockchain is kind of like the catalyst that's going to bring this into the mainstream, at least in my opinion. But the current tech is definitely has issues, right? It's early days, so that's why we're looking at the hybrid system. And the analogy I always use is like electric cars. Everyone loves Tesla now, but to get to the point with Tesla, we had to first have the Toyota Prius, right? And kind of ease in the gasoline transition to electric. So I see a similar approach with blockchain.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is very much a case of kind of like the bigger brands as well, and the better games and the better use cases we produce, the more people will want to get in. And as long as we've said, like if this blockchain element is in the back end and isn't kind of pushed into their faces and they don't have to necessarily understand it, then this can all work seamlessly, and we can all kind of get what the objective is, which is to improve the user experience and improve and boost creativity. You already see it with NFTs. Like there's a huge, even though the community itself isn't like millions and millions, you still see thousands of people who are willing to A, spend a lot of money on NFTs, B, put a lot of their creative time into it. Like obviously the artwork that we see come out now that it's unique to the blockchain or unique tokenized assets, some of it's like really amazing, and there's a whole new wave of artwork that can be explored there. So yeah, as long as kind of we make it easy for people to use, it's in the background, but it still gives them all the benefits without kind of losing that element of the philosophy that we all started with, which was decentralization means ownership. So as long as we keep that and give people a good experience, then yeah, it seems like the pieces are falling into place with blockchain, very much so.
Exactly. I mean, the users, the use case is gaming, flat out gaming, and then the blockchain is really there just a feature for security and ownership. If you look at the users need a really awesome gaming experience that's fun, and then they want to own their items, and have them secure. That's a feature to the game. That's not the purpose of the game. Does that make sense?
I would say I think we are seeing some different use cases though. So while I agree generally with onboarding being a massive problem, we did see back in end of 2017 we saw 80,000 people manage to buy a CryptoKitty. So that's still I think the biggest kind of a project by kind of NFT that people have gone out and owned and bought rather than being airdropped. And I think more recently. I wouldn't say it's massively widespread, but we've seen. I think it's on was it Cointelegraph? I think that the Axie Infinity has had a lot of speculation around its token, and Gabby Dizon, who's well known in the industry, runs a game development studio. He's in the Philippines, and because they've been going through kind of this kind of lockdown scenario, obviously we all have, but in the Philippines, a lot of people are kind of economically distressed. So a certain number of people he's been teaching how to play Axie Infinity, and in Axie Infinity you have these NFTs, you battle them. If you win, you get this token, the small love potion. And the price of this has been fluctuating quite heavily because people have been speculating around it, and people have been supposedly, I don't know the full details, but certain numbers of people in the Philippines have been playing the games, selling these tokens, getting dollars back, and for them it is kind of acting as a kind of financial safety net that they don't have any other work on. So I think while I agree, I think in general we would hope to see kind of blockchain being used to make better games or more interesting games. I think there will be an element of it, and potentially a big element in kind of kicking it off, that you will just have people going, oh, I just made $100, $1,000, the usual, exactly what's been driving the DeFi kind of bubble at the moment. Someone invents a token, calls it a silly name, puts a meme on it, and then suddenly people are just spamming everyone about how much ETH they've got on it and how much they've made. So I think the thing about blockchain is it does create value around otherwise, digital items that otherwise can't be provably scarce. So that has to be part of it as well, I think.
Yes, I definitely agree. And then that brings me to a little bit of a sidestepped question for Jake. I know your game deals a lot with, augmented reality as far as, like, the gameplay, some of the weapons, whatnot, and then the uniqueness of the weapons, the customization, the upgrades, whatnot. And I have seen quite a handful of, as AR is starting to emerge with, better smartphones and, companies working on these glasses and whatnot, and it trying to be like an emerging market. So with, VR, where you see these digital, unique asset NFTs, these special forms, these augmented forms, as far as, latter use, like what you can do with it down the road, say like being able to transfer these guns over to a different augmented, reality game down the line, maybe one where you actually have glasses and can, hold it in your hands and use it and whatnot, where you personally see this going and what you think people will eventually be able to, use with some of these digital assets.
Yeah, so obviously, Reality Clash is an augmented reality combat game for mobile. So the way it works is you would bring your mobile up and you would step inside an augmented reality portal that would appear in front of you. And then we generate a battlefield around you. And basically, with your phone, it will track your movement. If you duck down, your avatar in game will duck. If you lean. If you shoot, aim, everything, it tracks you like that. So, yeah. Obviously, it is quite an interesting way to look at your NFTs because you can bring your blockchain weapons into the game if you've connected your accounts together and then view them. Yeah, and definitely in the longer run, like we see it porting to VR. Potentially, there was company Terra Virtua who were working on a VR version that we were experimenting with as well. And yeah, I mean, personally, I always saw AR as a kind of stepping stone towards VR because VR was never really consumer ready, and it still kind of isn't. Like I still feel like we need a few more headsets before it gets to that point. Obviously, the latest Go and everything is much better, but still, I think there's a lot of way to go for VR. But most people have had an experience with AR. So Pokemon Go, for example, and then now Harry Potter, Wizards Unite. Yeah, so people have really kind of engaged with AR, and so that's one of the reasons we built the AR game. And yeah, I hadn't really thought actually about how it's a different way of looking at your NFTs within this AR game. But yeah, definitely, it's in the pipe works to port to VR. It's just a case of, I think, for all developers, especially working in this space, understanding or figuring out, what you want to invest your time in and what you invest your money in, and whether a VR port right now is the best thing. Not sure, but definitely, like we're at the minute I'm project managing Reality Clash 2.0 update. So we've learned obviously from the last year of the game being an MVP. We've learned a lot from our community, got a lot of feedback. So we're bringing some kind of big updates over the next few weeks. But yeah, definitely, it's I'm passionate about VR. I've got my old kind of dusty Oculus Rift there, but I still pick it up from time to time. Mostly do the boxing and Smash. For example, my light above me, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, it's missing the thing, and it's very bent because I've bopped it one time. So yeah, no, I definitely need to have a bigger space, I think, to appreciate VR. But that goes again to my point of, a lot of people can't. But yeah, it's definitely
So Jake, a bit of trivia for you. Which came first, AR or VR?
I'll go with VR probably.
Anybody else got a different guess?
I'm gonna have to agree with him on that.
Yeah, Virtual Boy.
1932, patents came out for the first AR headsets. AR first because AR is heads-up displays for fighter pilots.
Oh, that
VR
makes sense.
I've actually been in VR since '88 with Autodesk, so got a little bit of history here.
That's
Yeah,
definitely
no,
got to
thank
be a
you.
different experience from nowadays. And I know I was mentioning that as a part of Somnium Space, which is sort of similar to the likes of VR Chat Alt Space, in that it's a virtual experience, somewhat similar to this, where you create an avatar and you can go in and explore it. It is in both VR and 2D mode, kind of like this. And some of the features that they're adding, they have like digital plots of land where you can buy it with crypto, and then it's a NFT. You have it in your wallet. You can build upon it, and they're starting to take assets like crypto kitties. I'm not sure if they've evolved beyond that to like blockchain cuties, other types of like titles and assets, but you can take the still trading card whatever image of the cat and convert it into a virtual kind of 3D moving, kind of purring, tail wagging, living creature in the virtual world. That when you have the headset on and your avatar there, and you're walking around, and you can actually see your crypto kitty that you paid 50 cents, a dollar, whatever. That's in your wallet. Just kind of walking around as your own virtual pet. And I know, the likes of you see these assets being sold on like OpenSea and whatnot, these crypto assets, and they market it in different ways. Normally, like by game or like by type asset, if it's like a character, if it's an accessory, if it's that sort of thing. So I wanted to know, if you guys like thought as far as that, where these assets are gonna go. If like you could see them, because a lot of these digital owned assets, you have them in the game like gun skins or whatever for Dissolution or for Reality Clash, both of the likes. As I was mentioning to Jake, kind of the evolution of these, because people have them in their wallet and they own them, but a lot of people are, they're still like, why would I pay for this digital asset? It's not physical, it's not real. Everybody buys video games, but buying, stuff in video games, microtransactions and payments, whatever, people are still iffy on. So do you think you guys could see, I know Jake already mentioned that that is a definite, possibility, especially with VR already, being the forefront of their game title, working on, expanding use to users. But as far as like, you Dissolution as well as John from DAP Radar, the titles that you may or may not see, such as Splinterlands and whatever else on the top of the leaderboards, where they could potentially go down the line as far as like updates or evolutions or advancements to their digital assets. Because like I said, starting off with CryptoKitties as like these digital cards, images, can't really do much with them. But now we're starting to get more and more use cases to it. So I wanted to know what you guys think. That's going to go down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that it's still the case that a lot of these kind of NFTs are based around kind of their financial value. Also, I think that the reason that there are still a lot of card trading games being developed, obviously kind of Gods Unchained and Skyweaver, and then there's a whole bunch of these. The reason that they conceptually work well on a blockchain is you have a card and you don't expect to have anything. Having a digital card, that's fine. That's kind of the same as having a physical card, really. And if you wanted to, I suppose you could print it out. It does become harder with things that are in 3D, I think. I guess potentially, do we wait until some of these kind of metaverses start to kind of come into fruition? I mean, I guess we've kind of seen that, as you mentioned already, with things like kind of Decentraland and Crypto Voxel, and people are, with the artwork, are kind of putting that in their kind of physical, in their VR kind of environments. I think it is a difficult thing, but maybe it's just people have the physical, have the digital item, and then people like to do kind of craft and art around that, and because you own the physical thing, then people are kind of doing because you own the digital asset, then kind of you build your community around people doing kind of crafting around that. I know there's been a bit of work done about kind of connecting the two. So I've actually got a CryptoKitty that is connected to a physical CryptoKitty vinyl toy with a NFC link in it. It's a little bit clunky, but you can imagine those sort of things getting more popular as well, I suppose.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think definitely just bringing up the card side of things, that Yeah, I think some NFTs or some games are obviously far more suited, and kind of bringing the point back to interoperability, which I love as a word. Obviously, tokens or NFTs working between different games, interoperability. It just like bounces off the tongue. It's beautiful. That's obviously a feature that, like, for us, for example, with Reality Clash weapons, we felt that making weapons that can be interoperable with other games, weapons as a base, is great, because obviously you can have another game that takes that token information and that stats and then reads it in a different way and displays it to the user in a different way. But I think definitely with cards and card games on the blockchain, that's made, as you said, John, like a lot of sense in terms of what they're used for, really. And yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting that the change of people possessing more digital goods as we've gone over the past like 10 years, and people being happier owning digital things, or as happy owning digital things as physical. And obviously, as a wider point, it's good really for the world, because the more or the less cards that we print out, the less we're damaging the environment as a kind of one good thing, and using less resources generally. And if people can get the same kind of joy out of a digital item, which it's plain that people can, and people can put the same value into some of these cards, paying 25,000 or bidding on auctions like Hyperion, for example, on Gods Unchained, people bidding huge amounts on these cards. Yeah, I think it's very exciting.
Well, cards are just easy for people to conceive as items to be traded around on the blockchain, because they've traded Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering for years. But virtual items have had real world value in virtual economies for almost 20 years. The most expensive virtual item ever sold at auction, how much do you think it went for? Anybody?
I'm gonna have to go with like 300,000.
$6 million, and it was a moon out of Entropia. Yeah, they auctioned that off, and they turned it into a theme park inside the game, and they made $18 million off of it in the first year. But they bought it for $6 million, a virtual item in a game. Now you can't trade that outside that game at this point. Back then when they did that, and that was years and years ago. With the blockchain, that allows you to secure those transactions outside the game and not get ripped off when you go to sell it. That's the biggest part that I see, is there's hundreds of millions of dollars of virtual items in normal games trading around out there. But if you try to convert it to fiat, you get ripped off most of the time.
Yeah. Which is why all those side markets kind of popped up for a variety of things, like Steam skins, CSGO skins. They obviously had markets that opened for that. Yeah.
But you think in some way that just the general game developers would be a bit more receptive to blockchain, because I've always found them very antagonistic towards it. But given the amount of kind of black market and grey market sales that are going on at the moment, particularly in things like Fortnite. We're clearly, you're creating kind of scarce goods because they're limited by time, and then you're not allowing people to get access to those things. In a sense, they're kind of creating that problem for themselves. And I've always been a bit surprised that I guess game developers just assume, well, that's against our terms and conditions, so we don't care less about the kind of the pain that our community feels from doing that.
You have to give them a real strong business reason to change their way of doing business. I mean, it's like changing user behavior, but here you're changing a whole company's behavior. And they've been making money this way, hand over fist, for decades now. Why are they going to change? And as I see it, I mean, with our player acquisition engine, that hits them right at the root cause, because over 50% of every game's budget goes into player acquisition. Of all these, $100 million games, and that, over 50% of their budgets go to player acquisition and player retention. And if you can show them a way that they can acquire players for just giving up goods out of their game, then they will listen. Then they will say, oh, now this is a whole new business case that benefits our core business. for player acquisition and player retention, which is over half of our budgets. And that's our focus, is to attack them in that way, or not attack them, but get them to adopt it, because it helps their bottom line at the end of the day.
It does also screw over their bottom line, because they can't continue to just keep reselling things to people who can't swap them amongst themselves. So you move from a model where the developer every so often brings out some new digital stuff and sells it to the users, who then can't sell it amongst themselves, and then just money keeps going back to the developer. I mean, with blockchain games, it becomes much harder. And I think it's one of the issues it hasn't taken up. It becomes transactional, because you can't just keep selling all the time, because you're just going to saturate the audience, and the audience aren't going to trade amongst themselves. You have to move to something where you're taking a small percentage across every transaction.
I want to disagree with you there, because I mean, Magic the Gathering Online, or Magic the Gathering, is a great model of that. Every year they come out with, or every 3 months they come out with new packs that sell in the market. They have a mechanism for why it's important to the game and how it works throughout the game. And now, I mean, literally, I have over 1 million cards online myself, and it came out online in 2002. So every year they keep coming out with new ways. So you've got to be creative in that. But when you look at changing from paying $35.84 to acquire an online player to giving them some items, you got to look at the customer acquisition cost in number of items. So, or lifetime value of a customer in number of items. So lifetime value of customer for some games might be 1,000 items. Well, how many items does it take to get them to be a player? Maybe 2, 3, 4, versus, if those 2 or 3, 4 items cost, effectively is what you would sell to a player for, $5. That's a lot better than $35.84 acquiring that player. You're giving away a few of the items. It's really a no-lose situation for you if you look at it that way. If you look at the real, lifetime value of a customer in the terms of how many items are they going to buy from you in their lifetime versus how many can I give away to get that player. So if they're going to buy 100 items, it makes sense to give away 4 or 5 items. If they're going to buy 1,000 items from you, still makes sense to give away 4 or 5 items. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the biggest thing most conventional game publishers miss out on currently is, if you let players actually own and sell their items, that's going to increase their propensity to spend significantly. Right now, the average gamer, when you buy something, it's being thrown away. You're never getting any of that money back in any form. So, the average gamer, I think, spends less than $75 annually on gaming. And that's frankly horrendous. You go to the nightclub, you're going to spend more than $75 in one night. You go to the casino, you might drop a couple $100. Why do you drop a couple $100 at the casino? Because hey, I have the chance to make thousands. And having that thought in your head, it makes people spend money in a different way. That's
exactly.
Kind of our opinion.
I believe that looking at the overall dynamics of how Magic the Gathering Online got basically raped by Magic the Gathering Arena, because Magic the Gathering Arena doesn't allow you to trade cards amongst yourself in a secondary market. Yes, they got more profit themselves out of it, but they killed a huge ecosystem, and they opened up an opportunity for all these blockchain games to take all those, tens of millions of players who loved owning their own stuff and trading the stuff and making a profit from it. You've got a huge opportunity to take that whole audience away from them, and Wizards doesn't comprehend that. They're saying, "Oh, we doubled our profit this year because we destroyed what was about a $5 billion online industry." Yes, they weren't making that money, but that's how many cards are out there being traded at a value. So
yes, excellent points.
Blockchain games, I think.
Yeah, and then that kind of brings me over back to you guys, as well as we were talking about, the evolvement of digital assets, and kind of merging these NFTs and these crypto assets and game items to other games and to physical forms and virtual forms and whatnot. And I know you guys had a good handful of months ago, at least one open arcade. Are you guys back to being open yet whatsoever? I haven't heard anything on that since.
No, the arcades we went into, the first one we went into does 2.3 million players a year, and just happened to be in New Rochelle, New York, Fun Fusion. And no, they're not open back up yet. New York is still fighting, with um, uh, basically coronavirus and opening up restaurants and everything, and the same with Chicago. So we're kind of revamped everything to focus on the online community and rebuilding to Gen 2, securing everything, and we're starting to come out with AAA game gift cards as NFTs to try to supplement that revenue until it's looking more like we'll be live first of the year in all these arcades again, because they really have to just get through the end of the year and figure out what's going on in the new world. But one advantage that we have is in an arcade, 75% of their business comes from redemption, and a lot of these arcades now, we're looking at closing the redemption centers just because of the physical interaction with the prizes and the physical interaction with players. Well, we have a digital vending machine that removes that physical interaction. So there is no physical interaction anymore. People go up, serve themselves at the digital vending machine, get the app, get their Reality Clash items on their cell phone, leave the arcade, and download Reality Clash and start playing it. And that's a great post coronavirus era way to have to service your customer and not have that customer touch, if you will. You're not touching physical goods and handing them off, so you have to clean them in bags. It was a real headache for the arcade industry, and they're just now kind of starting to come back up for air. So.
Yeah, it definitely seems hard, especially with a business where, the whole point is multiple people going to this machine, putting their hands all over it, and, playing it, and especially kids. Definitely something to be very careful of. So, you said you guys plan on starting that back up at the beginning of the year. Is that going to be like those machines, I assume, just like in the arcades again, like the same places that you were planning, or?
There's several arcades that have been opening back up slowly with 25% capacity, 50% capacity, and then they have to, like the movie theaters are just now starting to open back up, but they have to clean everything in the bathrooms and everything outside every half hour, and then they have to do a thorough cleaning in between each showing. The arcades have to do similar type activities, and they're just trying to figure out the best practices, and that it'll take them till really first of the year to really get that going. And that it's an opportunity for us because it helps with the majority of their business in less touching interaction with their customers. I mean, basically, they have to come over and wipe off glass every half hour on the prize nexus, rather than wiping down 1,000 bags that they have to hand out with the goods in it, which allows the customer to keep that trading tickets for prizes. They're able to make all their own selections like they used to, but these are just digital goods that have value, whereas the plastic items had no value. So it's really we seem to have the right product at the right time, almost.
Yeah, it's very fortunate for I guess the silver lining in the gray cloud of all that's going on right now with all that happenstance. But yeah, that's for the most part pretty much all I had for specific questions. I don't know if we got any in the comments or whatever for post Q&A.
Hey everyone. I actually have to hop out here, unfortunately, because Houston's under the weather, and we actually have another call I need to take. But I do appreciate talking with all of you, and it was nice meeting some of you.
Great to meet you.
Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for inviting me, and have a good day, everybody.
Well, come back to the rest of the event and when you can. So
Yeah, I'll go take this call and I'll be back probably within an hour, I would think, if this thing's still going on.
oh yeah, well it's going on all day today and all day tomorrow. Like when we say all day, 9 a.m. to like midnight.
Oh man, you guys are doing the long haul. All right, I'll catch you guys in a bit.
Great.
All right,
Yeah, and
see you later.
in between the sessions, we have a lot of good networking opportunities. I mean, that was one of the main focuses of Run for the Unicorns was to allow the attendees to really get to know each other and build long-term relationships. So,
All right, perfect. Well, thanks, guys. I'll talk with some of you later.
thank you.
Speak to you later.
Any other questions from the crowd?
Doesn't
Chris,
seem likely.
you have a platform that's getting questions, correct?
Yep.
Chris, are you there? Chris Reed? I guess he stepped
Maybe
out.
he's AFK. Yeah, guess it's so.
So, John, have you not done any? You haven't done any sushi farming or tendies purchasing or any? You haven't dipped your toe much in the DeFi pool there.
I've not done any of the farming. No. I kind of think I'm basically lazy. I mean, the farming just seems like really hard work, doesn't it? It just seems like you have to get this thing, you have to work out what the thing you need, the best thing you need, then you have to go around doing things with it all the time, and it's just kind of like, no. So not on the farming side. I do kind of think. I mean, this is kind of going kind of on a tangent. I do think it is interesting that you're allowing people to build these what are becoming very complex kind of financial instruments, and it seems no one has actually much clue about kind of how any of these things are going to interact, two, how the risk is going to flow between them. So I kind of hope in some ways I hope they're all successful, but obviously the more successful they are, the more weird things will come up, and I do think it's very different to games, but putting out unaudited code and then suddenly getting hundreds of millions of dollars in it is clearly a recipe for disaster. So I expect to see. I kind of, there seems to be an argument. Some people are arguing it's not a kind of pricing bubble. To me, it's definitely a pricing bubble. Just you don't quite know if it's going to deflate in a kind of graceful manner or if it's just going to go pop. And the whole thing's gonna be nasty. But no, I mean I quite like DeFi stuff. So I do have some DeFi tokens, but I've not been doing any. I can't be bothered to do any farming. And the other thing,
I enjoyed your.
With the gas prices so high, yeah, unless you're putting tens of thousands of dollars in there, which certainly I don't have, then it's kind of not worth doing, is it? Really? There we go.
No, yeah. I mean, one thing I was doing recently, I mentioned before, was artwork. And there's one website called Cryptograph, and they were doing celebrity autographs that are tokenized. And there's a few interesting ones there that I was bidding on, and that was like Paris Hilton. She did a drawing of her pussy cat.
Didn't she?
Yeah. And then Ashton Kutcher did a physical drawing, and then burnt the physical one and digitized it into a digital one. So, and they had a very interesting mechanism of bidding as well.
And the one thing I do think that is interesting about the DeFi thing is, one, it creates a lot of value for some of these protocols. And then that I think, we've already seen kind of MakerDAO for a long time has actively been involved with the game scene. So they've actively been giving DAO the DAI token just for rewards or thinking about other ways of doing it. And I don't know how the project will go, but there's this Aavegotchi program, the Aavegotchi project. I don't know if you've seen it. So Aave is a DeFi protocol. It's basically like Compound. So you take some tokens, you lock them into the smart contract, and you then get another token, a token that gives you passive income, gives you interest effectively. And then the Aavegotchi people are then going to take those tokens. You create a digital Tamagotchi called an Aavegotchi. You lock that collateral in when you create your Aavegotchi, and then you have an NFT with a value that you can burn at any point. It's also creating interest at any, it's constantly getting bigger in value. And then they have these whole mini game things they're going to be doing, and I kind of think it's kind of interesting. You can imagine things like staking and all these DeFi primitives that are being built, because DeFi is kind of interesting. Everyone loves money, but you don't have a strong community generally around money. Do we? Don't have like fans of
No,
Bitcoin,
no.
not a big thing. Whereas we have millions of people playing Fortnite. So if you could now with blockchain, we can take this value, stick it in a game. Games have great communities, and you see that with Axie Infinity to a degree. So I think that will be quite interesting for next year to see how this kind of synergy plans out. And they have a lot of money, so game developers might find them a useful kind of funding source.
Target market. Yeah, I mean, I was interested in I think one of your recent videos, why DeFi will eat blockchain gaming. But how you said, obviously, talking about the flow on of that potentially these people who have made lots of tendies and all these other things, like that money can actually stay within the network and go into other assets like, crypto artwork, Reality Clash weaponry, NFTs.
I mean, I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing, the spike in crypto art, has been quite interesting. I think that suddenly, tens of thousands of dollars for a piece of crypto art is fairly common.
Very common.
That's a kind of byproduct.
Yeah.
Should we continue talking, or should we shut up? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm happy to
take over the conference.
Yeah, because I didn't bring up as well. Obviously, as a studio, we were as a panel, we were discussing trading card games, and obviously, you've had a quick look at our new announcement for Doctor Who: Worlds Apart. Yeah. And so, just kind of on that, we're building a trading card game with tokenized cards, and that's going to be around the Doctor Who universe. And obviously, I mean, it kind of goes without saying that it's a big brand name, well known, definitely in the Western world. With a huge amount of characters and lore, a storyline, everything there that can be, can work and also be interoperable with other mini games of the series or related to. But yeah, I just thought I'd, squeeze that in, a little quick reminder of that as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a very exciting time. Like, we've obviously talked about DeFi and how there are lots of little experiments with different things, like, different financial instruments for getting interest out of something. Like, it might be called chicken tendies or sushi or something that seems ridiculous, but like, so was Dogecoin or Dogecoin. When that first came out, like, it was a meme coin that was made as a joke, and then they started using it to fund charity, and they had a NASCAR with Dogecoin on. Like, I contributed towards that as well, because it's just like those kind of things is when it starts getting more real and more serious. And it does feel like in 2014, 15, there was so many cryptocurrencies being made just on the basis of, uses this mining algorithm, is inflationary or deflationary. There's 42 of them, there's 7 of them. Like, every experiment you could think of, people were doing. And it's kind of repeating itself a little bit with DeFi, where people have got a bit more serious in the sense that they're like, okay, but it's also collateral, it's also capital. Like, I'll stake it and use it to earn something else. I'll invest in crypto art and keep value at a certain level. And it's kind of it's great, because it's showing that, in the past 3 or 4 years, trust really of the people who are participating in the networks, it's so there. Like, I'm personally willing to put a lot of like savings into crypto. Obviously, it's very secure. Hackers, it's very, very secure. But like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, and it just seems it's really nice to see that we've gone from just Dogecoin to maturing, still keeping the fun side of things with all these ridiculous names and things like that, but we are exploring more like mature economic like options. And the best thing about it, obviously, it's a bit hypocritical in a way to be like, oh, we're exploring all these traditional monetary systems that Bitcoin was kind of created as a anti-thesis to, or whatever. But really, it's good because Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies, like, we can trust in that protocol, we can trust in the code. And so if we build financial instruments around that trust, then that is a far better model that we're building compared to like what we feel like we've started with, which is banking. National banks being able to print money based on what the performance is or who they want to benefit, rather than just going, this is the system, just under 21 million coins, that's how it works, go at it. You know, it's just nice to see. I'm feeling very positive. I don't know if it's my new coffee machine that's keeping me positive.
And I think kind of, it's a little thing, but it's interesting. Brands like Doctor Who. It's not necessarily the biggest brand in the world, but obviously it is a brand with value, and kind of you imagine they've kind of fairly carefully thought through what's going on, and it just seems to be like, I mean, they may not be the biggest brands, they may in some cases be quite odd brands coming to blockchain, but like today the Sandbox has done a deal with Care Bears, which just seems like super odd, but equally, Care Bears is coming to the blockchain. I mean, that's not something you would thought that would be very kind of late in this in the kind of cycle. And there's like what else is there? You mentioned the Paris Hilton thing, and there's William Shatner's been putting some of his kind of memorabilia on the Wax blockchain, and Dr. Zeus is coming to the Flow blockchain, the CryptoKitties thing, and these things, because they seem quite weird IPs. Maybe it stands out more. I don't think they're massive, but I think it's showing that for people who do a lot of IP work, that blockchain at least isn't seen as some evil kind of exploitative, potentially illegal thing. It's just seen as, well, we sell kind of plushies, and we license our IP in many different ways, and blockchain is something we'll experiment with. So I think that's a kind of a good sign of just general acceptance by people who are not tech savvy, particularly. They're just kind of businessmen with IP. So long may it continue.
Sure, definitely, yeah. And hopefully, I think if the next stage is AAA publishers coming out with games and products to either use NFTs or provide them to players or provide them with addresses on dedicated networks or whatever it is, but something that kind of gives ownership back to the players more so. But again, as we talked about in the panel, like Steam, for example, why would they want to allow that when their current system traps money within it, gives them, a very big income.
I mean, some people. So you have to say, with any disruption, some people will be, some people will go bust. Some people will be dragged kicking and screaming by their users, I think. But I think you are starting to see a few experienced teams spend a bit of time researching it, coming out with decent products rather than the enthusiasts we've kind of had up to this point. So right, okay, well, I've got to clear off and go have my dinner.
And sorry I had to go AFK for a little bit because as my team will attest to, I'm going to take a call that comes in from the SBA, and we just had the EIDL group call us to let us know we're still in process. So everybody, we're still in process. It's been since April that we've been still in process. But at least we're still moving forward, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this has been a great panel. I really appreciate you guys coming on. Again, the environment's going to be open until 11 p.m. tomorrow, so plenty of time to spend some time together. So, definitely. Definitely make sure to fill out your profile so that people can connect with you on LinkedIn. So you could do a one click over there for sure. But yeah, it's been a great panel. This will be cut up into different content after the fact as well, because we do have a recording of it. So we'll go through and make some highlights of it, put it on YouTube and LinkedIn. So it's gonna be really exciting after the fact, and we'll do some post production.
Lovely, good. Okay, see you guys. Have a good show.
Great panel, guys.
You too.
This is great.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for hosting.
No problem.
Okay, so 10 after the hour, we have a keynote at noon EST, so about 50 minutes. So this time to network, do some private chats.